Welcome to the Rich Report, a podcast with news and information on high performance computing. Today, my guest is Jesse Robbins. Jesse is the co founder and CEO of Opscode. Jesse, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Rich.
Hey, I'm interested in Opscode. I understand you guys have a product called Chef that does data center automation. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. Chef at its core is it does a lot more than just data center automation. Chef is an open source framework for systems integration. So it does all kinds of different things, from data centers to clouds, which to us are really just data centers with APIs. Same for private clouds. For traditional kind of bare metal systems automation, we automate VMs, really everything. Chef is powerful, and it's been interesting because when we talk across a lot of different industries, people sometimes wonder, well, is it built specifically for this thing? And the answer is no. It's a general purpose framework, and then people add a lot to it. It's probably helpful, actually, kind of give you background on the people that created Chef and behind Opscode in general, just so you sort of know where we're coming from, and why we ended up building the tool that we built.
Sure.
So first of all, I got my start. So I was an sysadmin for ISPs in the Bay Area while I was in high school. Then I got really bored and burned out of kind of building out that stuff, and I decided to go become a firefighter. And so I was actually a firefighter in the Bay Area, and I've maintained some of my certifications still, but in some ways it's sort of uniquely prepared me to be a startup CEO. So I moved to Seattle because I couldn't afford to buy a house in the Bay Area, and so I applied for two jobs. The first job was I applied as a bus driver for King County Transit, because it's good for fire department testing. And the other one was Amazon had this enterprise backup job open to run their enterprise backups. And so I applied to both, and Amazon called me back first. So I ended up back in the tech industry, and ended up with the title of Master of Disaster, which kind of carried and shaped my career there for a while. But I was a sysadmin building stuff, and sort of working at Amazon scale. So my background really sort of comes from large-scale systems automation that sort of worked with some of the challenges in the HPC environment, although we didn't really kind of approach it or look at it that way. We were sort of early in the Linux-based, horizontally partitioned, failure-oriented environments. But I ended up owning website availability for every site that bore the Amazon name, and
Wow.
So it was kind of a fun run. And I left and created a conference for O'Reilly called the Velocity Web Performance and Operations Conference, which is coming up. And so that's been kind of trying to export a lot of the knowledge from all the big companies that run really significant scale to everyone else, so that they can really deeply understand and succeed in in these larger environments that operate a lot like an HPC environment in terms of the compute challenges, but require a lot more dynamism and other things that most people haven't sort of had to deal with when they come from enterprise environments.
Sure.
So co-founder Adam Jacob is the creator of Chef, and Adam and I actually have stunningly similar backgrounds. He's actually a little bit older than I am, but we basically were doing everything at the same time. Adam created Chef to scratch an itch, which was, he wanted a really dynamic, database-driven, configurable systems automation tool, and the ones that existed at the time just didn't quite work for him. So that's how Chef was born. Was really, sysadmin solving sysadmin problems, and wanting to do it in a way that made everybody's lives a lot better. And then the last one that's sort of relevant for people listening to this is Christopher Brown. And if you haven't met or talked to or heard Chris speak, I highly recommend it. Chris was the founding architect and principal engineer of EC2. And there are many myths and legends told about the way that EC2 was created, but the truth is that as Chris was he was the founder of the project from a technical standpoint, and has shaped a lot of I think everyone's understanding about the way that the sort of infrastructure as a service world should work. His primitives approach and very simple, powerful APIs all sort of kind of emanated from him. He's our CTO now, and we're very fortunate to have him. And I'll say that the myth of Amazon running on surplus capacity, EC2 running on surplus capacity has always amused both Chris and I. I said absolutely no way. We're not get that dirty thing away from our cool production environment. And I actually blocked resources multiple times going to Chris. So he ended up having to deploy EC2 on its own hardware, sitting cross-legged in a data center for several days. Anyway, he literally built it by hand, and I'm probably one of the few people that claims absolutely no credit for EC2. I can only claim to have tried to destroy it.
Yeah, so. Yeah, that's a great story. So now he's part of your team.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so Chef, I know that you've had a couple of folks on, like the Cycle Computing guys, who have just a great story to tell about the kind of power that you get from what we call cloud infrastructure automation. But Chef is it's a tool that has changed the way that a lot of people think about the problems of scale. We're as an open source project, it's got about 350 contributors now. It's actually the largest open source configuration management project in history, and there's been a lot of them. And a lot of big corporations coming on board to support it, which, if you're thinking about HPC stuff, so for instance, Dell is now a contributor and has been working along with this OpenStack project to start making sort of private cloud big compute environments. So they have something called Crowbar, which is powered by Chef, which allows you to deploy a lot of systems at scale. You there?
Sorry, I was mute. Are you on slide 3?
Oh, sorry. No, I'm on. I skipped through.
Okay.
I apologize. So let me. Well, we can. So let's go to. We'll call this slide 4, and then we'll connect back in.
Okay. So Chef runs in 2 places. That one.
Yep.
Okay. Take a breath. Here we go. Go ahead.
So a lot of people ask about kind of how Chef runs, there are a couple of things. So Chef runs as a client on nodes. So nodes are individual systems, be they inside of virtual machines or hardware or what have you. And Chef's pretty lightweight. That runs as a client, and it doesn't store a whole lot of data locally. It connects back to a Chef server, either the open source Chef server that many people use, or Opscode hosted Chef, which is our centrally managed, hosted multi-tenant version of the Chef server that is basically what our business is based on. You can try for free if you want up to 5 nodes, and then it costs money after that. So if you want to play around with Chef, you can just go to www.opscode.com and use OHC, and it will help you get going, and you can decide whether Chef is a good tool for you or not. The reason why Chef is so powerful is we separated the data about automation, the specific host names and MAC addresses and kind of all the individual components, software versions, et cetera, from being stored inside of the recipes themselves. And that enables a couple of things. One, the Chef enables sort of real-time search-driven configuration. So, you could say if you've got a 10,000 node or a 1,000 node cluster, tell me all the machines that are doing this current thing and execute these commands against them. You can do that in real time, and when changes to those machines occur, you can then drive that back into the platform and drive new searches. So it basically allows you to do programmatic control of a distributed system very easily, very quickly, and without having to do a lot of the work up front, which kind of changes the world for folks. The cycle computing example, spinning up over 1,000 servers in just a couple of minutes to solve large scale protein folding problems. 10,000 cores sent at that, and they spun it up and spun it down when they were done. And that's all possible because of the powerful search-driven recipe model. So anyway, that's kind of a little bit about Chef.
Sure.
If that's not enough, we can always sort of show the slide of the little Lego chef guy.
Oh yeah, I got to show that.
Yeah. Basically, what we've found is a lot of the problems that we as systems engineers and software developers and architects face are really it's the dirty work. People don't want to you don't want to have to focus on how to make systems interconnect. You want to solve the problem that you're dedicating those systems to solving. And so we're really happy when people, kind of say, "Yep, I solved this once with Chef, and it got rid of all the dirty work." Part of that is we made Chef. We made those recipes really easy to share, and so recipes are wrapped up into cookbooks that kind of describe infrastructure. And the simplest thing to do is to go to cookbooks.opscode.com, where you can see over 240 community maintained and submitted cookbooks for basically any component that you need to run infrastructure at scale. There's an increasing number of those that are kind of application specific cookbooks, which is pretty cool, like things like Splunk and other sort of deployment systems for managing big environments. But a lot of them are also more basic packages like Git or Apache configurations, MySQL, various data stores. That was something that was very important to us when we created the company, and has been a big part of getting people excited about it and building a community where people can contribute, and you don't have to start from scratch every time. You've got a really powerful place to begin. As an open source project, I'm not sure how many of the sort of listeners are huge open source nerds like we are, but it is one of the biggest projects in history in terms of our space. 360 individual contributors, 70 corporate contributors, and I mentioned earlier Dell has a big initiative that they're doing called Crowbar. We're part of the rack space and OpenStack projects really deeply. VMware actually uses it, which is important if you're sort of managing traditional virtualization environments. And they actually ported us to Windows. So Chef definitely works for Windows. We have pretty rich and getting richer support. If you have to deal with Windows environments and for HPC, we can help you. And then some of the sort of cloud management providers like RightScale and Heroku both contribute and use it. So it's pretty big. It's going to be around for a while. So if you guys want to try it out and want to see what it can do, it's going to be there, and it's going to get richer all the time. The OpenStack thing, I think, is going to be a big deal for HPC, just because it allows you to do the kind of cloud computing environment stuff that seems to be becoming increasingly important, both in HPC and really everywhere, without having to go through a whole complicated build exercise. So hopefully that's going to be useful for people when you're not just building out large instances, but you've got dynamic instances as well that you're big hard problems to solve.
So Jesse, I guess the first question that comes to mind is, who's your competitor in something like this? I mean, is it something like Puppet Labs, or is it more like platform computing, or is it there is no real correlation there?
It kind of depends on the problem that you're trying to solve. So certainly, company, when it's just data center automation, people evaluate lots and lots of different tools, and there are certainly others out there. the thing that we've found generally is I think you actually kind of said it right. Like we're a new class of tool for a different kind of problem, for really dynamic, sort of complex data center configuration or cloud system configuration. And because of the unique real-time data store and sort of the way in which you're able to drive things, generally once people start using Chef, it goes from being limited to a limited thing of data center and system configuration to solving a much bigger problem, which is what is the problem I'm trying to solve, and Chef kind of spreads all the way through that from base configuration all the way through app level configuration. And so right now there really isn't sort of a head-to-head competitor at a technical or problem level. There's certainly ones that at a business, when we talk about it from a business context, it's different. But
sure.
You mentioned Puppet. We have tremendous respect for those guys, and one of the things that I often suggest is people try out both, and you can go to Opscode and use the platform and get started right away. So hopefully it's easier for people to try out and get really great value immediately out of Opscode, and they can also try similar things with Puppet or with CF Engine, which is another tool that is I've seen a lot in the HPC environments. But hopefully what people find is that we solve all of those common base problems, which we sort of look at as table stakes, and then we enable an entirely new class of problem to be solved really powerfully, and that really goes a lot deeper. And once you use it, it sort of changes the way you approach the problem. And again, I use the cycle example as kind of the canonical case.
Yeah. So how powerful is that for you as a business to have this developer community out there that's sharing their know-how with these recipes? I mean, does that give you a great advantage?
It does, and part of the thing to take away from that is, it's as a business, it's important, but really, Opscode is a participant in a community, and we take that actually really seriously. So, open source projects and the companies that are based around them really have to work together pretty intensely. And you want to be able to sort of judge the health of a community by how it's growing, how people are adopting it, how the sort of sponsor company an originating company treats the community. We believe it. We're essentially participants, and we may be first among equals, but it's a very important part of succeeding is getting everyone together. And so yes, it's helpful for us. It's also it only works that way because we're helpful to everyone else.
Sure. So you're a startup in Seattle area. Kind of away from all the Bay activity where you came from. What's that environment like up there for you?
Seattle's great. I do spend a lot of time down in the Bay Area. Our investors are on Sand Hill and in Boston actually.
Sure.
But basically it allows us to focus. I think that there's a lot of kind of Bay Area startup. I don't know how to describe it other than there's a lot of churn and sort of there's always something going on.
Yeah.
And we're kind of we're infrastructure people. We're passionate about helping other businesses, helping other engineers, helping other people succeed and solve problems. And so for us, we kind of want everyone around us to win and feel really good because they're part of something big. So that's easy to kind of do and emanate from a place where you're not all kind of fighting for the same microphone. And so also Seattle's a great place. We're hiring a huge number of people, by the way. So if any of you are interested in solving these kind of problems at scale, you should definitely come and we've got a jobs page up, but you can also just email me. My email address is jesse@opscode.com. We're growing very, very quickly. We probably have 15 open recs right now, and so actually now it's probably 20. Mm-hmm. So the interesting thing about living and building a startup in Seattle is, we tend to work really hard and play really hard, and we don't sort of get too caught up in which startup event is going on, because there just aren't that many that happen in Seattle. Even though there's a great and vibrant startup community here, it's not as much of a social thing. And I think that probably resonates well with the with other people, where it's I don't need to hang out with a bunch of people at a loud party in order to feel like I'm and actually be a part of something important.
Right. Well,
you see that in Portland, right?
Yeah. In fact, the supercomputing conference is coming up to Seattle in November. Yep. So all the folks that listen to this are going to be up there in a big way. I'm an events guy going way back. I wanted to wrap up, Jesse, by asking you about Velocity Conference, and it sounds like you kind of helped. You got that started. What prompted you to do that?
A couple of things. So one, I left Amazon, and I was very proud of what I had done and helped other people to do in terms of building and spreading culture that is kind of required to build and succeed at scale. And technology shifts happen because they make people's lives better. And the other thing is that I kind of feel like sysadmins and software developers who love infrastructure are rock stars. We run the world's infrastructure, and we didn't have a place. So I had gotten involved with O'Reilly and met Tim O'Reilly, and actually joined something called O'Reilly Radar, which is the sort of Tim O'Reilly and Friends blog. And I said, there's this kind of secret group of people that we all know how the web really works. We're loosely connected. We don't have a conference that really meets our needs, and we wouldn't go to most conferences because, frankly, we're too busy running things. So I convinced him, along with a few other folks, Steve Souders, who at the time was the chief performance Yahoo at Yahoo, and he's now at Google, and Artur Bergman, who was at Wikia, and was also on O'Reilly Radar with me. And we told Tim that we needed a conference, and that we set a very high bar. The bar is it has to be a conference that I myself would pay out of pocket to go to.
Okay.
And that's been kind of, I think, the standard for everything. And it's been a real honor and privilege to organize it. And it's our fourth year this year. Okay. There'll be well over 1,000 people. And it's the place that people that think about big scale go and get to learn about all of the sort of secrets. And it's a sort of sharing environment. It's not pitchy. We're kind of brutal to vendors, which is an interesting thing, particularly now that I've I almost accepted that I am one.
Yes, almost.
But it is Velocity it's the place where people who care about performance and operations go, and there's nothing else quite like it. There's actually another conference which I do like, which is Surge, which is sort of the it's a similar event, although organized by a different group of people, but Theo Schlossnagel, who is an amazing engineer. So I recommend both of them, actually, but Velocity is definitely the place to go if you care about big scale. And we created it for us. I mean, for the group of people that are passionate about it. It's not an academic conference.
Okay.
That's kind of the other thing to understand. So, I've been pretty critical of various conference events, because it always seems to be slightly distracted from, like, there's a lot of papers that get presented, and I'm more of a rough consensus and running code kind of guy.
Yeah.
So we don't do papers. It's got to be stuff that is actually working now. We're starting to bridge the gap between the more traditional academic group and the sort of real world practitioner stuff that, frankly, we can't work on a 6-month cycle because some new thing may have emerged that's already changed the world. And so, we tend to hold a lot of space open until the very last minute. I actually just accepted one of the last talks yesterday.
Okay.
In order to make sure that it's super current. So it's a little bit different in that respect. But you can check out some of the sessions online.
Yep.
And you can just go to www.velocityconf.com. And I'd certainly encourage your listeners to attend. And I will actually give you a code, which I don't have offhand, so
okay.
you'll need to do it later with a discount if you
Oh,
want.
yeah, I'll attach that to the post. Absolutely. And it looks like that's June 14th, coming up real soon in Santa Clara. Terrific.
Yep.
Cool. Well, Jesse, I really appreciate you coming on the show today. I wish you the best with your company. It sounds like the sky's the limit for Opscode and for Chef. So love to see that. And looking forward to getting up to Seattle much sooner than November. So maybe we'll look you up.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks.
Sound good? All right. Well, that's it for the Rich Report, folks. Stay tuned for more news.